Ham Radio Now, episode 40. Are we really up to 40 already? Well, actually the numbering system is kind of screwed up because starting back at episode 2, I tossed in about a dozen of what would these days be standalone episodes, and a couple of the episodes have stuff embedded in them, multiple episodes. So I think we've really produced almost 60 Ham Radio Now episodes. But all right, technically I got to stick with the numbering system. So this is episode 40, and this one is Aprs.fi, Behind the Curtain. And let's see here. Oh, yeah, we're going to look at another talk from Jesus, OH7LZB. Jesus is the guy who wrote Aprs.fi, put together the website. And this is the last of the packet-oriented talks from the 2012 Tapr Digital Communications Conference from last September down in Atlanta. It's the last talk on Friday, so the next one we do will start from Saturday morning, and that will be all from packet. So we then remove the P from Tapr, but plenty of packet left in Tapr here. Let's take a look at this here. Once again, we're going to see a little guest shot from this fella here, Bob Brunenga, WB4APR. Also very happy with what Jesus has put together from Aprs.fi. And if you're not familiar with the website, Aprs.fi website, this is what it looks like. It's a website that shows you all the packet activity, all the APRS packet activity. Pretty much any place you want to look at it. We're looking at Raleigh, where I live, and there's me, and that is not an APRS transmission. That is a D-Star transmission, because D-Star location information is also fed into Aprs.fi through the internet. So it's got a lot more than just APRS and a lot more than D-Star, plenty of other stuff there. And rather than have me tell you about it, I guess we should probably go back down to Atlanta and let Jesus tell you all about it after I once again point out good old Arvin back there. Ham Radio Now is viewer supported. If you're interested in these programs, if you get some use out of them, just asking for $10 a year for all of our content. So stop by hamradionow.tv. A bunch of people have been doing that lately. I appreciate it very much, but not nearly the total number of people who have been watching the program. So if you're skating by for free on Ham Radio Now, next time I go to McDonald's, I'm going to tell them you're going to pay the bill and see if they'll hand me a Happy Meal. And I bet they don't. Back down to Atlanta. And we see Jesus one more time, and the Tapr Digital Communications Conference, and Aprs.fi, Behind the Curtain.
So as an encore presentation, we'd like to see what's behind the curtains of Aprs.fi. Will you tell us?
Yeah, I'll try. I'm not going to tell you everything, but some bits. So hands up, how many of you have been here on this website? Okay, good. Not everyone. But anyway, it's pretty popular. I think it's probably the most popular APRS website these days. It gets about 20,000 different people every day, about over 200,000 people every month visiting. That's quite busy. Quite a lot of people for a website run by one guy. It's an APRS web service, a bit like findyou.com, which I'm sure everyone knows about, but it's slightly more modern. It's done by today's web technologies. It does real-time tracking and doesn't reload web pages to update. It uses Ajax methods to do it. Feels a bit more like an application than a web page. Of course, it's still restricted by what you can do and what you can't do on a website, but still, it stores APRS traffic worldwide for currently over 2 years already. I'm adjusting the data retention times based on available disk space that I happen to have on the servers and the amount of functions. Sometimes I add new optimizations to make it pack tighter, and sometimes I add new features which require more space, then I have to take down the retention times. And it allows currently you to view almost all APRS data that is available on the network, including telemetry and messages, bulletins, and weather, and all that. It has pretty good maps. It runs on Google Maps API and also supports using the OpenStreetMaps tiles under the Google Maps API. And so if you haven't tried OpenStreetMaps, then you really should. It's been mentioned before. If your home street does not show up on OpenStreetMap, then I really encourage you to log in on the OpenStreetMaps website, do a little drive with your handheld GPS and upload that trace and do a little drawing on the OpenStreetMaps website. Probably within tens of minutes, your fixes on the map will show up on Aprs.fi when you switch to the OSM maps. Aprs.fi supports plenty of languages. I actually made a wiki-style translation tool which allows people to translate the site to their own language, and there are currently over 20 languages which are included. Let me demonstrate. I sometimes have fun with. Better? Have fun by trying to use the website in Japanese and trying to remember where the buttons are. Or Chinese. I really can't see the difference, but it's my software, I suppose. But this is really important in the global space because how many of you can speak Swedish? A lot of people can speak English, but in some countries, Japan and Germany, a lot of people don't really speak English much at all. So localization for this kind of software is really, really important to make it usable for the majority of people. And here's where the users come from. Of course, US is the biggest user because, well, this is where APRS is from. But you can see Germany and Poland and Japan as big Aprs.fi users also. Japan is big. Why I started this? OH2LAK, who is a repeater and networks builder in Finland, handed me a free HAMDR data radio, an old Finnish data radio with a CPU and memory and radio and modem, for which OH5NXO has written a really nice ham amateur firmware, which is open sourced also. Really good APRS tracker and really good digipeater. But because of the availability of the hardware, no one else has it but us. And I set it up in my car, and I went around looking on the websites available and the software, and I quickly figured out that it wouldn't be much work to make a little bit better one, because Google had just opened up the Google Maps API, which was free to use, given some restrictions that the site has to be open to everyone and so on. So I tried to do it. I spent 1 week and I had a really nice real-time map running, because I could there was an existing APRS parser written by Tapio Sokura OH2KKU, which I could just pull in and put the positions in database and run the map. And it was already better than anyone else had. So in 1 weekend. It turned out to be a bigger project when I started to do the rest. Luckily, there was plenty of free off-the-shelf software available for the purpose. I could pick a free SQL database, which was pretty scalable, and I won't name which one is it because that's a religious issue to many. So just think of your favorite SQL free database here. And same goes for the programming language. The website is written in a scripting language, which is free and very popular in these circles. But again, there are a few options that people prefer one or another. I won't tell you which one I use. And I used the APRs parser written by OH2KKU, and I improved it a bit by adding weather parsing and better error reporting for improving the API a little bit for this purpose. And that's open source. You can get it from CPAN, which probably tells you that the backend software is written in Perl. I will tell you that. And I use the Nginx web server, a really fine Russian piece of software used by lots and lots of big websites around the world. It's used to run most of the really popular websites. It's really, really fast and lean, just for the buffering and speed and handling lots of clients. And I use the memcached distributed cache on the web frontends to cache data. So most of the time that you go on the site and pick something up, it comes from memory. With this kind of hardware and this many users, you can't wait for the disk most of the time. There is all of the APRs data for the past 48 hours is always in memory. So that's what runs the real-time views. So then I had to make something else up. There's a web application about 19,000 lines of code by myself for the views. And then there's the backend scripts for data collection and maintaining the database, and tool scripts, and that's about 6,000 lines of code. The site is practically maintenance free, so I can leave it running for months, come here, not worry about it. Otherwise, I have to be really careful about adding features which would add any manual work. So I cannot do anything that would make the users contact me because I don't have the bandwidth to help them. I'll just write some software. And then there's the web content, style sheets and strings, about 7,000 lines more. Yeah. I couldn't help. I had to continue. So this is how it looks, how the components go. There's a database, data collector, maintenance scripts, web app, and the front-end web server. Quite standard way to do these kinds of things on the internet. This is how it looks physically. I run currently two servers, which are both running a web server at the application and a copy of the database. And one of the servers is acting as the master, collecting the data, and the data is then replicated to the other server and also replicated to a backup server running in the next city. Internationalization, I cannot pronounce that, and localization, 18 letters. That's a big feature that I spent a lot of time. All of the strings are in string files, compiled by a tool to be used on the website. So people put in translations and vote on the best translations. I moderate those in the end and put them live on the sites. And it supports time zones and different measurement units. And if you come on the site from the US, it will by default give you imperial measurement units. If you browse the site from Europe, it will give you metric without you having to select that. Website layouts are in templates, so the application code doesn't know much about it, how the site looks. The same code is used for both the mobile and the desktop browser views. The sites can be run in open and closed modes. So what you see on Aprs.fi is an open mode. I can set up a custom installation which requires you to log in. I have a few of those running, one for a commercial customer now. And there's a user manager tool which you've never seen and will never see unless you buy it, that allows you to add and remove users and do access control to different features. And features in the software can be, in the website software can be enabled and disabled, so I can do a custom installation which doesn't have weather and messaging and whatever, that does only the position display and so on. And also the site layout templates can be customized per installation and per website, so that I can remove the APR-specific stuff and use it as a commercial AVL system. And multi-tenant installation is under development, so meaning that the same installation can serve multiple different customers with different sets of data, and the customers not seeing or knowing about each other. I should have that ready in the end of the year. Runs on 2 servers. Client load is balanced. There's no sharding. All of the database boxes have to have all of the data currently. Availability. There is automatic failover for the website. If the database master falls over due to hardware failure, then I will have to do some magic to fail it over manually, but that's not a lot of work. It's scripted. I can do it quickly. And there's a proper automated backup running for disaster recovery. So if the machine room burns down, I have a copy of the data in the next city, 20 kilometers away. I do have performance statistics. You cannot run this kind of operation without knowing how well it runs and what takes performance and what affects what. So again, I have a Munim plugin which plots the amounts of data coming in and CPU usage per action and per process, and memory usage in different blocks of the system. Currently, this is how the CPU usage seems on the right. About 1/8 of those 8 cores is used. The new servers that I got in this spring from the dumpster, remember, are quite nice because they have 32 gigabytes of memory each, and that reduces the amount of disk access a lot. And also I can cache more stuff and do less work on the CPU. It's all a matter of balancing things. I also do monitoring. You can probably notice by this time that I have been working in ISP production all of my professional life, so I tend to do this sort of professionally. So if the site goes down or if there's no new data going in the database, I will get an alarm for that. But the alarms go out to my 2-meter POXAG beeper if I'm at home, or to my Moto Turbo trunked ham radio on 70 centimeters when I'm at home. Or APR's message. It's the same technology being bound together. And also email or SMS while I'm here. About the backups, there's a 3rd server in another machine room that gets the data in practically real time. it does consistent backups. It stops the database replication once per day, takes a file system snapshot of the whole database, which takes seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds in this nice file system. And then after taking the database, the file system snapshot, it lets the replication continue and the database catches up on new modifications really quickly. And then I do a compressed backup from the file system snapshot. And I also store the database journal or log files, so in case the database is corrupted by bad software of mine or something, I can roll back to any given moment, skip some operations which broke the database contents, and then roll on, then do the rest of the modifications. So point-in-time recovery is possible. So the current scale of the operation, the database has about 400,000 tracking targets. A good bunch of, like over half of those are AIS targets, so ships, commercial ships, and some leisure ships also. I have those. Under 200,000 are APR stuff. A good bunch of the APR stuff is, again, corrupted packets. So stations which have only sent a few positions, the call sign is corrupted by a few characters, and then I get a new station in the database. Thank you. Checksums would be nice. There are about 40,000 registered users, so quite few users need to register. Some features require you to create a user account, but most people just go and browse. That's fine. The servers get some 300 to 400 HTTP requests per second. That's, again, not a lot, and I can handle like 8 times more currently, because that's what takes the CPU power, and I have only 1/8 of the CPU capacity used right now. And it scales really nicely for the CPUs. And the visitor counts I already mentioned. The fun part is that the servers only put out maybe 1 megabit or so of traffic to the internet. Really little amount of network traffic. And that's thanks to Google Maps. All of the map content, all of the grab hooks go out from Google's servers, so I don't have to pay for that traffic. And I also use a CDN, a content delivery network, for providing the clients with the symbol images and all other static content. Just mostly to speed up the page loading, so that your browser doesn't have to talk to a Finnish server across the big waters just to get the tens of little symbol graphics around the map. That's really important, especially since I have pre-rotated symbols pointing to the direction where the car is going. That multiplies the amount of small graphics quite badly. Again, I do quality control. I have a test suite which it doesn't test the web user interface really, because maintaining that kind of tests is a lot of work. Been trying it at work. It's horrible. But yeah, you need to do it at times. But I try to, this is a hobby, so. But I do test the internal APIs automatically, so when I do changes in the backend code, I run a single make test command and wait 15 seconds, and it will run a bunch of tests to see that if this API's data comes in from the server, it will go to the database through the backend, and it will be correctly served through the APIs to the web user interface and to other clients. Helps to catch simple bugs. Do you at this point have any questions about the backend stuff? Because then I think I have a little bit more time to talk about features and that.
I can't help myself. So you've got, all this is in a professional data center mounted in racks with professional grade machines, and it's a hobby. Working in the data center industry here in the United States, this is thousands of dollars a month of electricity and rack space and bandwidth and stuff. How are you paying for that? I mean, is it donations or what's going on?
We have a hobby hosting site. So the IT circles in Finland are quite small, and we have a hobby circle of people who have worked in telecoms, and we have our own hobby hosting site for our own stuff, so we don't need to move our servers around when we switch jobs ourselves. And because we know people, we can get quite cheap bandwidth also. But again, this is just two blade servers, so it's not very expensive nowadays. I could run it with. I get some advertising income from Google ads, and with that I could pay for. Probably at this point I could pay for the commercial hosting also, but.
About 6 months ago, you posted a notice on Aprs.fi that Google Maps was going to change their terms of use to only allow a certain number of hits per day or per month or whatever. How did that turn out? Apparently, it worked out okay.
It turned out okay. I mentioned this on the mailing lists, and turned out there were a few really nice Google employees on those mailing lists. And they talked to the right people inside Google, and I got a bigger quota, so I can have more requests per day for free from Google, since this is a public service which is freely available. And if that had gone into effect fully, there would have been no way for me to provide this service as it is, because the income did not match the pricing. But also Google, I think Google has recently taken down the pricing on that a bit. So I don't know how it is nowadays. It's a possibility to switch to OpenStreetMaps, but then again I would probably have to rent tile server capacity or run a tile server which by myself and serve all the maps, which would take more bandwidth, lots more work to run that server, and so on. I'll rather not go that way. I have the new servers, 2 of these. They were old, so they had small disks. I replaced them with bigger SATA disks, which are cheaper. And that's the 2 servers it's running now. 15 more minutes, I will show you some features. There are some tool buttons here. Most people never notice these. Please try them out. There are tooltips. You can hide it. There's a home button. If your browser knows its location, if you are browsing on an iPad or something which has a GPS or other location method, this center button actually works really nicely and centers the map where you are. And if you have logged in, you can click this button to share your location on Aprs.fi. The website doesn't know if you're an amateur operator or not, and there are lots of people who are not due to the AIS angle. The location is not broadcast on the APRS IS because it could potentially go out over radio then. If you have logged in, there's a quite nice favorites button here. You can store your favorite views on Aprs.fi. There's a bookmark current view button here. This is nice since it's stored on the server side, so you can use the same favorite locations from your work computer, from your home computer, or your iPad, so you don't have to prepare nice views for the mobile browser, where it's harder to come up with those. The filters thing is a new thing. Let's go to Helsinki, where we have more stuff. I have to adjust. You can adjust the amount of stations shown on the page quite programmatically, I might say. This is a list of filters. These things here are individual filters. Let's take all stations away and take just APR stations. Okay, better. Let's add AIS ships. You get the idea. Let's take digipeters and iGates. Well, they are both also APRS stations, but I can click here to remove them from the view. So you have a logic and or operations available. Or we can only show iGates and digipeters. And this is by function. These are stations which, according to my software, have acted as APRS digipeters. This is not based on symbol or some other property announced by the station. Now, when you have found a really nice filter set and you are going to use that filter later, you can save it as a new list. And give it a name. And then you can switch between the saved lists. And these are also saved together with your user account on the server, so you can use them from multiple devices.
Can you show me again where you would come back and get that infrastructure list? Filter?
Filter. Here.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you have a filter list selected and when you make modifications, those modifications are immediately saved on the server. So if I would then add weather stations to this infrastructure list, I do not click on the save button. It's saved right now. So the saving button is only for saving a new list with a new name. Remember that. And I can also add new filter terms. Let's clear this.
Get rid of the CWIOP weather stations. Easy.
Let me show you something else first. I will create a new filter. Let's see, device vendor. Oh. Yeah. So you can do string matching on the database contents in quite fun ways. So I could, for example, make
But that is the only Kidwood that is also an iGate and a digipeter, because you're still within that infrastructure list. Is that correct?
either or.
Okay.
Either or. Okay, well, let's skip that subject for that. It's got a lot of alternatives. It's almost a programming language because you can do and or operation between the filter terms. You can make a filter which shows only the Kenwoods which are moving and are also acting as digipeters, for example. And then there are the PHC circles. And then there's a ruler tool, which you can use to measure distances and angles between points on the map.
Can you go back and show the PHG circles? Did you didn't click on that, did you?
No,
Go ahead and show people what it looks like.
like that.
He's asking you to show it
Yep.
for Atlanta. Is that easy?
Let's see some other features.
Somebody asked what those are. That's power height gain. Every APRS packet can contain in it your transmitter power, your antenna height above average terrain, and the gain and the directivity. You'll notice some of those patterns are cardioid. Okay. So that's inherent in APRS, so that you're able to look at the map and see what the network capability is, who can talk to who via what possible links, instead of just looking at a bunch of icons on the map.
I'm going to do a couple of more features shown here. There's a context menu on the map. It's currently got only a couple of things available. But I will add more over time. Just right-click on the mouse or secondary click or whatever you call it on your favorite computer. There are real-time graphs nowadays. So if you look at the telemetry or weather and leave the graphs open, they will update themselves over time without having to reload the page. I'm going to do a new starring feature, so you can, just like on every other site nowadays, you can click on a star on a station to make it, to put it to your favorite stations list and store it on the server. I'm in the middle of doing a little commercial venture. I have a customer in Finland. I have done a Tetra integration already. Tetra is a standard in trunked network system, much like cellular phones, but for security and rescue operations, like P25, but more like a cellular network, really secure. And so I've integrated with that, and it's pretty easy to add new protocols. I already have like ADS-B, AIS, APRS, Tetra done. Questions?
Yeah, so the main website runs as a web app doing AJAX calls in the background. Do you have, or did you have any concerns about a large number of clients where people fired it up, walked away, and you have 1,000 or more zombie machines using up bandwidth? Has that been a problem?
Well, then they use up some. It's not a big problem. They are using more of their own resources because the software, the JavaScript software running on the client side is much heavier than what the server does for that single client. So I've offloaded much of that to the client.
Again, the thing I think is fantastic about Aprs.fi is you're driving down the road and some guy says, well, what is APRS anyway? And you just say, go to Aprs.fi and you'll see me. Because, you know, Aprs.fi already knows where, it does a very good job of knowing where the internet browser guy is coming from, and it brings up the map right there, and you don't have to tell him anything else. It's just a fantastic way to tell people about APRS and ham radio.
I've been thinking about reusing. I just got the idea today when I saw the Arissat presentation that doing with that previous bit of JavaScript which runs a real-time graph from the display from the database using Google Earth. You could do a satellite tracking software on the web displaying how it looks from the satellite, which stations are in view right now and which ones are operating right now. If that data feed would be available, then it would be really easy. Okay, I'm done.
Well, thank you very much.